Imagine a small American town where people leave their doors unlocked at night, where the loudest sound is the wind through dry corn, and where everyone thinks evil is far away. Now imagine a quiet man with tired eyes and a soft voice. He helps with odd jobs. He smiles, nods, and never makes trouble. You pass him on Main Street and do not remember his face, but in his lonely farmhouse, behind a nailed door and a curtain that never moves, there are masks made of human skin, chairs covered in human hide, and jars filled with things no one should ever keep. When police finally go inside, some run out to vomit, others stare and cannot speak. This is the story of Ed Gein. Edward Theodore Gein grew up far from city lights and far from ordinary love. He was born in 1906 in Wisconsin, to a father who drank too much and a mother who prayed too hard. His father, George, found comfort in bottles and anger in silence. His mother, Augusta, found certainty in a Bible that she used like a hammer. She told her boys that the world was rotten, that women were corrupt, that desire was sin, and that salvation lived only under her roof and under her rules. She did not ask for obedience, she demanded it, and Ed obeyed. When Ed was still a boy, the family moved to a farmhouse near Plainfield. It sat on wide land that felt empty even when the sun was up. That was how Augusta liked it. She wanted the world far away and her children close. She watched them, lectured them, and warned them about the dangers of laughter, friends, and women. Ed went to school but was not really there. He had thin skin and strange habits. He laughed at the wrong time. He spoke as if he was repeating a lesson. Children did not invite him to play. Teachers called him polite but peculiar. He walked home alone, and at home there was Augusta, her voice filling the house like smoke. George died, and the house got quieter. Ed's older brother Henry began to push back. He said their mother was not a saint. He said Ed needed to separate. He said the world outside was not hell. In 1944, a brush fire broke out near the farm. Ed and Henry went to fight it. By nightfall, Henry was dead. They said it was smoke, or exhaustion, or an accident. But when they found his body, there were marks on his head that did not match falling down. The case never became a crime. The fire cooled. The questions cooled with it, and in the silence that followed, Augusta's grip on Ed grew even tighter. 2 years later, Augusta died after a series of strokes. The one person Ed feared and adored in equal measure was gone. He sealed her room like a museum, keeping it spotless, almost holy. Everything outside that door fell into dust and filth. The rest of the house became a nest of newspapers, old food, and broken tools. The curtains stayed closed. The clock ticked, then stopped. Ed slept near the kitchen stove, under a single lamp, in air heavy with mold and memory. Something inside him began to warp. The house that was once a prison became a cave where thoughts echo and grow loud. Ed still went into town. He did odd jobs. He shoveled snow and fixed small things. He was shy but helpful. He paid his bills. He smiled when spoken to, in a meek, almost childlike way. People thought he was harmless. Strange, but harmless. He was the man you asked to watch your kids for an hour because he would bring them candy and tell them stories. He was the man who seemed too gentle to her to fly. But when the days got short and the nights grew long, Ed drove out to the cemetery with a lantern and a shovel. He had been reading. He read magazines about death and anatomy, about headhunters and cannibals, about strange crimes and medical diagrams. He learned to look at the body like a puzzle that could be taken apart. He learned that skin could be cut and stitched. He learned too much, and he learned it alone. In the cemetery, Ed walked between stones with names he recognized. He had attended some of their funerals, He waited for the soil to settle, and then he dug. He said later that he went into a strange haze when he did it, like sleepwalking. He took whole bodies sometimes. He took parts other times. He carried them to his car and covered them with tarp. He drove home on quiet roads, slow and careful, like a farmer guarding a fragile harvest. Back at the farmhouse, he worked. He worked with knives, thread, and time. He tanned skin like leather. He cleaned bones. He made bowls from skulls and masks from faces. He made a vest that fit like a second chest, a pair of leggings that fit like new skin, and a suit that he could wear to feel, just for a moment, like he was no longer himself, to feel closer to his mother, to feel like he had become her. The house filled with objects that once had been people. Some were arranged with care, some were put aside like scraps. This secret life went on for years. No one asked where he went at night. No one followed the tracks to his door. When a local tavern owner, Mary Hogan, disappeared in 1954, there was talk, but no answers. The bar floor had blood and a spent shell. People said it was a robbery gone wrong. They said she had run away. They said many things, but they did not say Ed's name out loud, not seriously. He was odd, but he was helpful. He was quiet. He was Ed. In 1957, the town of Plainfield sank into winter. Snow fell. Engines were hard to start. On the morning of November 16th, Bernice Worden opened her small hardware store as usual. She kept a tidy shop and knew most of her customers by first name. Around midday, the shop fell silent. A customer walked in and found the register open and red on the floor near the counter. Bernice was gone. Her truck was gone. Her son, Frank, who worked as the deputy sheriff, followed the trail of routine. The last customer, the last receipt, the last normal moment. The receipt was for antifreeze. The name on the slip was Ed Gein. Police drove to the Gein farm at dusk. The house sat low against the field, quiet, as if holding its breath. The barn door creaked open. Inside the shed, in the cold air, they found Bernice Worden. She hung upside down by her ankles, headless, split down the center, dressed for a butcher's hook like a slaughtered deer. For a moment, the world tilted. This could not be real, but it was. The breath from the officers came in white clouds. The lantern light shook in one hand. A man ran out and gagged in the snow. Another said nothing for a very long time. They moved from the shed to the house. What they found there did not feel like a crime scene. It felt like a place where the rules of human life had been taken apart and reworked. The smell hit first. Old, sweet, rotten and dry. Then the sights, skulls used as bowls, faces hanging like masks, lampshades that were not made of cloth, a chair upholstered in skin, a belt made of nipples, a box of noses, a pair of lips tacked to a string as if they were a toy. In a paper bag, a face. In a bedpost, skull caps. In a drawer, fingernails. In a corner, the woman's suite, pieced together with the patience of a tailor and the mind of a man unstitched. The officers cleared room after room. Most of Augusta's old rooms were spotless and untouched, preserved like a memory under glass. Everything else was squalor and nightmare. There were books and magazines about death, ritual, anatomy, and Nazis. There were tools that should never meet human flesh. The kitchen was both a kitchen and a workshop. The line between food and body had blurred, and over it all hung the sense that this was not simply cruelty. It was obsession. It was imitation. It was a plan to become something that no living person could be. They found Mary Hogan too, not whole, but in parts, confirming what the bar's blood had tried to say years earlier. The farm, at last, had spoken. They found Ed soon after. He did not run. He did not fight. He answered questions in a soft voice, as if explaining a broken fence. He said he had taken bodies from graves. He said he had killed less often than people might think, but that he had been busy with the dead. He said he wanted to be close to his mother again. He said he had made a suit to feel like her, to climb inside her absence and make it fit. He did not scream. He did not boast. He spoke as if telling a sad story that had already ended. News traveled faster than winter wind. Plainfield became a carnival of reporters, gossip, and fear. People who once waved to Ed at the post office stood on their porches and stared at the road that led to his farm. Parents held their children close and thought about sleepovers and how easily a smile can lie. Journalists kept their distance and then moved close until a deputy pushed them back. The house itself became a character in the tale. Dark windows, dirty siding, and inside a museum no one wanted to see. Photographs ran in newspapers across the country. America, at mid-century, saw itself in a new mirror and did not like the reflection. Psychiatrists studied ED. They listened as he spoke of his mother with a devotion that never dimmed. He described her faith, her rules, her warnings, and the comfort of being told what to fear. He described feelings he did not understand. He described the silence after she died, the silence that filled him like water in a well. He described graveyards as places of comfort. He said the dead do not disappoint you. The dead do not leave. The dead do not judge. They are calm and quiet, and they are there when you need them. The court found Ed insane. He was not sent to a normal prison. He was sent to a mental institution where he made crafts, read books, and smiled politely at nurses. He was a model patient. He ate on time, took his medication, and did not cause trouble. The man who turned human bodies into furniture now passed his days with puzzles and paints. It was hard for people to understand how someone so calm could be connected to something so monstrous, but that is what made it worse. Evil with a snarl is one thing. Evil with a gentle voice and a steady gaze is another. Back in Plainfield, the authorities planned to sell the Gein farmhouse. People argued over whether it should be destroyed. Some wanted it to be a lesson. Others feared it would attract the wrong kind of attention. One night, before the auction, the farmhouse burned down. Flames roared up and turned the wood to ash. The foundation stayed. The house was gone. Ed, when he heard, reportedly said, "Just as well." The field kept it secret, and the house that had held so much darkness finally let go. Ed's car, the one he used to carry his dead, was sold at auction to a carnival man who put up a sign and let people pay to sit in it. There are always buyers for a haunted object. There are always eyes willing to look where they should not. The small town felt used, and the country turned the worst thing anyone could imagine into a roadside attraction. Maybe that is how people cope, with jokes, with tickets, with distance. Years passed. Ed got old. He did not talk much about his crimes, and when he did, it was in a flat way that did not sound like a confession. He died in 1984 at the age of 77 from respiratory failure and cancer. He was buried not far from the graves he had once disturbed. For years, his headstone was scraped, chipped, and finally stolen. The spot is now unmarked. He lies under grass that does not remember, in a town that cannot forget. Yet Ed never really left the world. He slipped into stories, films, and whispers. He inspired Norman Bates in Psycho, the quiet man with the mother who would not let him go. He inspired Leatherface in the Texas Chainsaw Massacre. the mask made from human skin, and a home filled with trophies. He inspired Buffalo Bill in The Silence of the Lambs. The idea of making a suit from human skin to become someone else. Each character took a piece of the truth and hid the rest in fiction's shadow. The audience felt fear and told themselves it was only a movie. But behind those movies was a real man who bought antifreeze on a winter morning and went home to his shed. People often ask how something like this can happen. They look for a single reason. A magic cause that would let them say, that's it. But the truth is a knot. It is a strict mother whose love felt like a chain. It is isolation that stretched for years. It is a mind that grew wrong in the quiet, with no one to pull it back. It is a town that saw oddness and chose to be kind instead of curious. It is a time when mental illness went unnamed and untreated. It is a mix of fear, obsession, and ritual. It is a man, a house, a shovel, and a night with no moon. Imagine being a neighbor then. You see Ed at the store. He tips his cap. He buys nails and twine. He speaks softly and does not linger. Later, you hear that Bernice is missing. You hear sirens out near the farm. You see smoke that is not smoke, just a dirty horizon. Soon the truth falls on you with the weight of a storm. You think about that time he fixed your fence for free. You think about the way he smiled when the children waved. You think about how evil can be simple and close, how it can borrow your tools and return them clean. The police officers who went into the house carried what they saw for the rest of their lives. Some never spoke of it. Others spoke of it too much. One said the smell followed him home. Another said he woke up at night thinking he heard the soft creak of a rope in a cold shed. They had seen car wrecks and shootings. They had seen the worst a bar fight can do. But they had never seen furniture that had to be buried, masks that stared without eyes, and skin stretched until it forgot it had belonged to someone. In the years that followed, people took sides on what Ed was. Some said he was a monster from the start, born wrong. Others said he was a broken son, shaped by a mother who made fear feel holy. The doctors said insane. The law said not guilty by reason of insanity. The town said never again. The movies said watch closely and be afraid. And the cemetery kept its secrets, as cemeteries do, with patience and grass. There is a detail that lingers like a whisper, the untouched rooms of Augusta. While the rest of the house decayed into filth and horror, her parlor and bedroom stayed tidy, dustless, dim. Lace curtains, a Bible on a table, a framed picture, a bed made with care. It is as if Ed tried to hold back the world inside those walls and failed everywhere else. The shrine stayed clean. The outer rooms turned into a workshop for the dead. It is a picture of a mind split in two. One part still the obedient son, the other building a costume to wear when the obedient son no longer knew how to exist. Sometimes people ask why Ed did not become something else, why he did not leave town, or find friends, or get help. But leaving requires courage, friends require trust, and help requires a name for what hurts. Ed had none of those. He had a car, a farm, a shovel, and a story about women that he had been taught since he was small. He kept walking in that story until it swallowed him. If you listen closely, you can still hear the quiet of that farmhouse at night. The boards creak. The wind finds a gap and whistles. In the kitchen, the clock has stopped. A single bulb hums above a table. There is a newspaper with a picture of a face, not unlike the ones on the wall. There is a coat hung on a nail. There is a smell that the cold cannot chase away. And somewhere in the dark, there is a man sitting very still, thinking of a woman who is not there and a way to bring her back that should not exist. He waits, and winter waits with him. Ed Gein's story is not a thrill ride, though it thrills. It is not a ghost story, though ghosts hover around its edges. It is a lesson about the dangers of isolation, the power of belief twisted into a weapon, and the thin skin between normal life and the unthinkable. It reminds us that evil is sometimes loud, but often quiet. It reminds us that horror can wear a helpful smile and say, "Yes, Mom," and "No, sir," and shovel your driveway in a storm. It reminds us that a lock on a door is not a guarantee, and that the most dangerous rooms are the ones that look ordinary. When people ask how to keep this from happening again, the answers are not dramatic. They are ordinary and hard. Watch the quiet ones, not with suspicion, but with attention. Learn the names of the pains that bend a mind and treat them early. Do not make a religion out of fear. Do not build houses where questions cannot enter. Do not confuse obedience with goodness. And when you see a person sinking into a life made of closed curtains and long nights, knock on the door and keep knocking. In the end, there is no puzzle to solve that makes the fear vanish. There is only the truth that hurt people can hurt people, that death can be turned into ritual by a mind lost in its own corridors, and that a town can be both kind and blind. Ed Gein did not hide in a city alley. He did not stalk crowds. He lived down the road, near the fields, in a house that looked like all the others until you stepped inside. If you listen to this story in a warm room, with a light on and a cup in your hands, hold the cup a little tighter and look at the light. Let the warmth remind you that most homes are safe, that most neighbors are kind, and that most quiet lives are simply quiet. But also remember that safety is not guaranteed by habit, that kindness does not see everything, and that quiet can be a mask. Remember Plainfield. Remember the farmhouse. Remember the shed on a cold night, when breath turned to smoke and the lantern shook. Thank you for staying with me through this chilling story. If this kept you listening, if it made your skin crawl, if it made you think about the houses on your own street, please hit like, drop a comment, and subscribe for more true crime told in a clear, human voice. And I want to hear from you. If you had lived in Plainfield back then, knowing only what neighbors knew at the time, would you have suspected Ed Gein? Or would you have trusted the shy handyman who smiled and helped and kept to himself? Tell me in the comments below.